far.
That extra gear, the first 3 steps.
Huge strides in the performance.
That I might not be the player I am today.
All right, welcome to another episode of Behind the Gear, and today we have the pleasure of sitting with this fine, young-looking man right here, Josh Brown, property of the Florida Panthers. Does it feel weird when people say like you're the property of?
Yeah, a
Florida
little bit.
Panthers?
Honestly, you feel like you're kind of like owned, I guess, not like an employee of the team, but yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And this year, obviously, or this past year, I guess, got a real good chance to get your first kind of taste of the NHL, and then got an opportunity, and obviously you kind of ran with it. I mean, you ended up playing over 30 games with the big club, which was huge. During that time, did you kind of just get an opportunity to play? We're going to get into this a little bit more, but did you get a chance to play, sit out? Was there a bit of like healthy going on there as well? Or were you just in the lineup, played well, and then just kind of rode it out?
Yeah, it was actually that. I went up there. I wasn't even sure if I was playing that game when I got called up.
Yeah.
My flight actually got delayed. I ended up getting in at like 3 a.m. and then I had the Leafs the next day. So I saw that I was on the game sheet, and I got to play that game obviously. And then after that, I didn't come out of the lineup actually, which was pretty cool. So I played like 37 straight games once I got called up.
That's awesome,
so,
man.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Were the Leafs in Florida? Were you guys? The Leafs must have been there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we were at home.
So getting in at 3 a.m. I mean, obviously, you get up the next morning. Probably was it a pregame skate that morning?
Yeah, there was. Yeah.
So how'd you feel going into that? Just with not a lot of sleep, obviously, different spot.
Yeah, it was a little. I think the adrenaline kind of took over.
Yeah.
It was okay. I mean, pregame skates are pretty light, anyways.
Yeah.
But I was banking on that nap, the pregame nap, but I didn't really fall asleep because I was just jittery and
No doubt.
just nervous for the game. So
yeah,
I mean, it turned out all right. I think we won 3-1, 4-1, or something like that.
And I mean, up to that point, you played exhibition games and kind of like, in a training camp and stuff like that. Obviously, you've been, wearing Florida stuff for years as far as that.
Yeah.
But what was it like to actually get in your first game, like national anthem, the whole nine, kind of, playing in that first big kind of game where you're like, man, maybe I'm going to get a bit of a run here.
Yeah, that's definitely different. Like you said, I've had the jersey on before in preseason and things like that, but when you're standing there, honestly, that's kind of when it hit during the anthem, and you're just kind of sitting there like, this is for real. Like I better show up for this game.
I better remember how to play.
Yeah, the nerves kind of kicked in, but I settled myself, and then I think I had a pretty good first shift. Yeah, I think that was the big thing. I made that first pass, and I'm glad it went on tape to tape. So then it was just from there, I was like, okay, like here we go. Like now it's just another hockey game.
Yeah, for sure. And then do you find like once you get kind of comfortable, settled in, you get back to kind of the way you play. You just it just becomes another game, whether you're playing in spring, you're playing in Oshawa, you're playing in Florida, you just kind of play.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, everywhere you go is going to have different systems, but it's still hockey at the end of the day. And I got up there for the things that I do. So just in their system, I can still play my game. And exactly, you just kind of settle in. And then my D partners were great with me and everything, and everyone was helping me out. So yeah, it was honestly pretty easy.
That's awesome, man. Oh, it's cool. And I find a lot of times when guys do get called up, I mean, other guys have all been in that situation before at one point in their career, whether they're a 15-year NHL guy or they're a 5-year guy, they've all been called up at one point or had their first game in the NHL. So you get guys that are around that are kind of helping you out, right? That are going to show you the way and like, hey, don't step on that. Hey, don't touch that or whatever it is, right? Because there's a lot of things when you get in a new locker room, people that have never played don't understand, like, hey, don't bug him. Like he needs this, or hey, just like leave him alone or whatever's going on. Because as a new guy, like, man, I'm sure you just kind of sit still and probably not do too much, right?
Honestly, you just kind of sit there and just take it in and just watch everybody else's routines and try not to get in the way of anybody else's. Like, I don't want to be ruining Barkov's, pregame routine or anything. So just kind of like stay to the shadows, do my own thing kind of thing. So exactly.
Now for you growing up, you were from London, Ontario, correct?
Yep.
And played minor hockey, like before kind of junior nights and all that stuff. Where did you play your minor hockey?
With the Oak Ridge Outlaws at the time. They're the Arrows now, but the Outlaws. Yeah, I played, I think, 1 year tyke when I first started, and I actually got to play a year up just because I was kind of a big kid.
We call that exceptional status.
yeah. Back then I had the exceptional status. But, and then after that I played just 2 years with my own age. And then grade 3. It was actually, I was kind of lucky. My mom, she didn't know too much about hockey. She kind of has a music background and everything. But during one of my Oak Ridge games, I forget who it was, but he worked for the junior Knights. But he just kind of said to my mom, like, you need to get him at tryouts this fall for the AAA team or whatever. So that was grade 2, I think. And then, so going into grade 3, those tryouts, I ended up making the AAA team with the Knights. And then I stayed with them actually the whole way. Your grade 3 to grade 10 through our draft year.
So you played basically minor Adam all the way through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
That's good. Now, were you always a bigger guy in stature, or were you a guy that kind of grew a little bit later, or were you always one of the taller guys?
Yeah,
on the team?
I was always one of the bigger guys.
You were that guy.
Yeah. In the
Son of a
younger
bitch.
tournaments, like my mom would sit there and the other team's parents would be like, someone get a birth certificate check on like one of the, like they'd all, because I was always bigger and everyone just thought like I wasn't their age because I was way bigger than everyone.
Yeah.
Kind of one of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I was one of those kids that grew. Like I was like the biggest kid on my team. I remember I didn't start playing until I was later, like 9. So when I first started playing, I needed like the biggest jersey on the team because I like at that age. But I was big. Like I was a bit chunky and tall. And then it was, I think, Bantam, I never grew again. And then everyone just shot by me. I was like the shortest guy on the team in a year and a half. It's like, what is going on? But yeah, there was always guys like you that were always just big to, you know. And I'm sure for you, what was it like kind of going through being a taller guy? Because I think a lot of times when you are a taller guy at 8, 9, 10, people think you're 12, 13, and they treat you a little bit differently sometimes too,
Yeah,
right?
honestly, kind of. And another thing, I know I got suspended a lot when we started to be able to hit because I was just way bigger than everyone. And I don't think I was that dirty or anything, but just some of the hits would just be like the guy's heads
Blowing
or
guys
kids
up,
would go flying, and then the ref's just like, I gotta kick him out for that, or you know what I mean? Just, things like that always seemed to happen too. When I was younger,
did you ever get frustrated by that? Because we go through it now with young guys who play an aggressive style. They like to hit, and there's no problem with it, but they do get called a lot, especially some of the referees, like you said, aren't sure, panic a bit, kick them out, or give them a 5 or give them a 2 or whatever happens as far as the penalty goes. But it's frustrating for these young guys. And one of the messages I tell them is you got to play smart. But you don't want to lose that, because when you get to junior and you get to pro, you need to have that. Now you're playing against guys that are more the same size. You're not going to have a Bantam kid who's 120 pounds and a Bantam kid who's 200 pounds, which happens, right? Yeah. Things level off a little bit. But was it frustrating for you growing up, like getting suspended or getting kicked out of games, and you're like, man, that was a clean hit?
Oh, definitely. Honestly, sometimes I would just like, but it got to a point where it was just happening so frequently that it was almost like the coaches were just like, hey, like you just got to let up a little bit. So then I had to kind of find that fine line of like, okay, this guy's a little bigger. Maybe I can actually hit him as hard as I want to. Or like, as long as it's clean, obviously I'm not saying don't blow people up from behind or anything, but, but yeah, I kind of had to know when like, okay, I can't really like run through this guy. Like we got a big game tomorrow. I don't want to be sitting out for, you know, like at tournaments or something like that. But for sure, it wasn't too bad, but I just kind of seemed to be a theme when I was younger.
But it's common, man. It happens to a lot of kids, and even like minor hockey, even without hitting, just rubbing up on kids or bumping kids, and it's an elbow or it's hitting the kid in the head. Now, if you touch a kid in the head, you're definitely going to get called on it. A little bit different rules back then, but it happens, and it's really frustrating. A lot of kids get discouraged, and then they play really soft. Yeah, so you have big guys that don't want to touch anybody because they don't want to, So it's hard to find that fine line,
Definitely.
And then all of a sudden, now when you get to junior, now you almost got to turn that back on.
Yeah, I actually found that a little bit. It took me a little bit to kind of mix it up, I guess, in my first, and one of the GM was kind of like, like you probably got to kind of fight in this league a little bit, and I was just like, yeah, you're right. Like I gotta get my edge back or whatever. So like it wasn't too bad, but I definitely found a way to get it back fully, kind of thing. So
Now going out of obviously played, minor midget, kind of going through that draft year and stuff like that. For you guys had a good team. That 94 age group was solid, and obviously had some good players on there. What was it like going through that draft year? Did you find, like, I know kind of sometimes having a parent or two that aren't super political or aren't involved, it's kind of nice because they're not trying to schmooze agents. They're not trying to, because you see it, man, that you see parents that are up there talking to scouts and, talking to the Sudbury Wolf scout and telling them how good their kid is. So your mom, I'm assuming, was kind of in the background, just, keep going, Josh, doing well. Like, didn't really know a lot about navigating the OHL or trying to get you drafted or things like that. But what was it like for you going through it?
I think that was, like you said, a huge part of it. Like we all knew it was our draft year. I didn't know like if it was going to happen for me or anything like that. But I honestly think, looking back on it now, a big part of my success was the fact that my mom kind of sat back a little more. Like if she knew I had a bad game, she wasn't, as soon as I get in the car, like just ripping me apart. Like I know some of my buddies' parents would, because she figured that my coach probably just ripped me a new one. So why would she need to do it? And it was always just like, hey, there's always tomorrow. There's like always the next game. And I think, parents today, like they can be a little too hard on, like, for sure, on their kids. And I've seen it, and just, I think that's a huge part of me knowing that I had that support base at home, and it was never forcing me to do anything. Even for tryouts, my mom would always be like, hey, do you want to try out like this year? And I'd be like, well, obviously. But I know some parents are like, no, totally. Like you're trying out, like you're, you know what I mean? It was always like whatever I want. Like if I still loved it, then like we were doing it, you know what I mean? So, and I think that was a huge part of, like my success later in life, just knowing that I wasn't going to be scared to go home to get screamed at, or kind of thing like that. So
and I think that spills into other parts of your life too, right? Where, like your mom's supportive or your parents are supportive, which I think is huge, because you're right. Like a lot of times kids are scared to tell their parents whatever it is, right? Or you have a bad game, you're going to get yelled at in the car. And I think I'm really, really big on when I do talk to parents about this stuff, I'm like, kids need parents. They don't need another coach. They got enough coaches.
Yeah.
Let the coaches coach, be a parent, be supportive. Yeah. It sucks. Like I've got young kids right now. Mine are young. But man, if my kid is playing soccer and I know he's got a little bit more and he can, be a little bit better and get that ball, it's frustrating. Like, as a dad, you're like, holy, you just want to like, oh my God, get over here. I want to talk to you for a sec,
Yeah.
But I really am trying to be conscious of like not doing that and be like, and then, after the game, we'll talk a little bit and in the car and like, hey buddy, how do you think you played? Like, I think I played pretty good. And I'm just like, oh man, you played so shitty, I'm just losing it. But then you kind of find ways around it and like, no, I thought you did. Hey, remember that one time, kind of chat about the game a little bit, but I've never yelled at. I've never been hard on. I'm like, I have bad days as a parent, as a worker, as you have bad days as a player. Like you kind of get it. But for these young kids, like you guys going through it when you're younger, I think it's so important to have that support.
For sure.
And because you want your kids to like sports, whether you play in the NHL ever or play whatever,
definitely.
who cares, right? You want them to enjoy it and have fun with the process for sure.
Yeah, definitely. That's huge.
And then obviously getting drafted to Oshawa. What was that like for you as far as like that draft year obviously gets a little bit political like we just talked about. And I'm sure you saw some of your buddies kind of getting stressed about things and you probably were a little bit as well. But what was that whole draft kind of year like and kind of going through that?
It was a lot of fun. Our team was really good. Like you said, we ended up losing in the final to the Chiefs though, which still bothers me to this day. Yeah, I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't really sure if it was going to work. I had heard that teams were interested. Obviously, I was a bigger defenseman, so teams always see a project like me and think like, oh, we could turn him into something or whatever. But I think I really kind of turned more heads at the OHL Cup, though. Our team did pretty well there. Obviously, we were invited, finishing second in our league. And then that's where I met up with my agent, and it was the same thing. Like I had two agents, and my mom was just like, hey, like, do you want an agent? Do you think or whatever? Like, who do you want to choose? Like, let's sit down and talk. It was never like, oh, like you need this, like you need to be. But yeah. And so he was telling me that I could potentially go like second or third round, and I was like, well, I didn't really expect that. But the thing about Oshawa was cool was they never called me. Like a lot of teams call and kind of do a phone interview. They just sent a package. So I filled out the package and got back to them. So then I was sitting up because it's on the computer, right? You just sit there like refreshing or whatever.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Or at that point, it was still on the phone actually. So I see Oshawa has a third pick in the third round. So I was like, oh, like they never called me. Like they're probably not going to take me or whatever. So then they're sitting there and then they're like, oh, we're going to select from the London Junior Ice AAA Gold. And I kind of perked up and I was like, who could that? And then they're like, Josh Brown. And then obviously like my whole family was there with me and everyone started losing it. So it was pretty cool. And then they had like a package in the mail to me the next day, like with like some swag, some gear and all this stuff. So yeah, that was pretty cool. That's your first kind of taste of like, okay, like hockey might like work out, or this is pretty cool. Like, you know, it's your first kind of that like professional feeling, I guess, like a team, like you're going to play in the OHL. Like that's where we all wanted to play first, especially growing up in London with the Knights. Like, I would have loved to have played for the Knights, but you know, I'm happy that I went to Oshawa and it all worked out there too. So yeah, that was obviously a pretty special time for sure. Yeah, and they've got a great organization, obviously, right? Like they've got some little bit of money. They put the right things in that organization. Some really good players there. Clearly, obviously, you guys had a good run. You seen that new lounge they put in? No, I heard they redid that. That's a new rink, right? That's like a 10-year-old rink, maybe? Yeah, you got to look up this lounge. They had it on Instagram. Actually, so Brett Harrison just got drafted there, right? Oh, yeah. And he was showing me pictures on Instagram and Twitter of the locker room, the weight room, now that you say this, and the lounge. It's unbelievable. The lounge it's like just, pro. Yeah. Yeah, it's probably better than some of the pro ones, actually. When I was there, it was comparable to pro, and now they've made the weight room way bigger. They have that like rapid shot thing that like Sorcerer Sports has. They have one of those now. And now this lounge is just insane. Yeah. Like it's a pool table, ping pong, like so do you want to go back and play junior again? I'd love to rewind the clock. Way less stress. Just go in, have some fun. Yeah, for sure. Oh, when you look back on yourself in like minor midgets, so going in your draft, getting drafted third round is pretty obviously like great. Yeah. When you look back at the type of player you are compared to what you are now, obviously you're older and more mature and things, but we all thought in minor midget, we were all pretty good, right? When you look back on it, do you look at things right now and you're like, man, I was not good at all. Yeah, honestly, kind of like, I think my feet weren't nearly as good. And that was always a thing I was told to work on. And just some of the, I don't know. Yeah. Just thinking about back to those games. Yeah. You're a lot younger. You're a lot, I don't know. I hadn't quite grown into the body yet. I'm just so much like stronger and faster now and everything. So yeah, I don't know. Like, why would someone draft me third?
You know,
Like, when you
it's-
think
yeah,
about it, like sometimes it's like,
I joke
why
all
did
the
I get
time.
it? Yeah.
But when you look back at yourself, right, you think like at the time, I remember at the time thinking I was pretty good.
Yeah.
And I like for my draft year, I was a captain of my team and small, whatever, doesn't matter. But now I look back on it, I'm like, if anyone I never got drafted to the O, but if anyone had drafted me to the OHL, like they probably should have lost their job because I was not that good. Like even the skill set that I look at, some of the guys that did get drafted, I'm like, different time then. The rules are different and stuff like that. A lot more big guys, kind of a big guy game. Like would have been perfect for kind of your style for sure.
Yeah, we should have switched.
We should have switched.
You're skating a bit.
Totally, yeah, yeah, exactly. You gotta wait.
For sure.
Yeah. But now going into Oshawa, so going into your first camp, what was that like? Like, was it pretty intimidating as far as just now you're with, 18, 19, 20-year-olds that are at camp with you as well. You're a 16-year-old coming in. What was that experience like for you? Were you just kind of like take it all in, or were you going there expecting to try to make that team?
I wanted to make the team really bad. Like they had talked to me about like it was kind of up in the air. They had a bunch of D. So I think I kind of went in with an attitude to make the team, but I was also kind of taking it all in, and I was obviously pretty nervous. Like these guys are some good players. There's actually with Boone, there's a good story. Like the mini camp was I think a month before that or something. And I was leaving the camp, and I'll never forget this. Like Boone was his dad was driving the truck up beside me, and then they stopped, and then Boone got his dad to roll his window down and was like, "Oh, hey Brownie, like have a good summer, man. I'll see you back at camp." And I was like, "That's pretty cool. Like that's Boone Jenner, like that guy. Like even he's only a year older than me, but at the time, everyone like he was with the Chiefs captain. Went first round. Everyone knew who Boone was around here, so I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Like I'd love to play with that guy. Like that's pretty cool. I told all my friends as soon as I got home, be like, you'll never guess who was like nice to me at camp or whatever, right? So and it's funny now. I consider him one of my best buddies, just playing with him and stuff like that. But that first camp, definitely like there were some older guys you could lean on who were pretty good guys to the young guys, but those can't like. There's a lot of guys.
I know that's the thing, right?
These days, like it's a lot. So you're like, how am I supposed to stand out? How am I supposed to show like? So yeah, it can get a little nerve wracking, but I think ultimately just remembering why you got drafted there. Like obviously you're good at something, so just do that and just play your game, and it'll. Was there anything that because going to camps, whether you're trying out for the Bantam team that has 70 kids trying out for it, or you're going to an OHL camp, because sometimes I know London just had theirs, and I want to say they had 4 teams. Yeah. So I mean, you're looking at like 70, 80 guys, which is, and the team's pretty much done. There might be one spot. So was there, when you were going in, did you have any kind of mindset that year, or maybe the next year, or even going to an NHL camp, but like I got to separate myself? How am I going to separate myself? Like, did you have any kind of aces in your pocket where you're like, hey, if I fight, or if I show my skating ability, or if I play physical, like, was there ever anything in your mind where like, hey, how do I separate myself from these other 10, 15 D? Yeah, I think, in the OHL camps, they told us not to fight. So then we were all like, oh, is that like, do they really not want us to fight? Or, like, or they just, but it is actually a fine, I think, if you do fight. And Dave Branch like lives in Whitby, so he's often out. So it was like, obviously we were going to get fined if we fought, but I think, like I just knew like I could play a big physical game. So just in those scrimmages, just not taking it easy on anyone, even if it was some of my buddies from the draft or even the year before or whatever. I think that's kind of how I just stood out a little bit. So people was like, oh, he's a big guy. He moves pretty well, I guess, back then. And then he's physical down low and like separates man from the puck. So I think that's kind of, I guess my ace in the pocket, or the ace in my pocket kind of thing. For sure, for camp. That's what I definitely tried to go in with that mindset. Yeah. I think it's important for players to know what type of player they are, right? Sometimes you got players, even at pro levels, that are a little delusional. Like they think they're a goal scorer when you're probably going to be a grinder. That's which is fine, right? Yeah. But I think embracing that a little bit and then knowing what you're good at. And if it is playing physical and being mean and blowing guys up, if you get a chance to, I think those are things that help separate. But knowing what that is one thing, and then being able to do it and being consistent with it, and not, playing outside that box too much, right? If you're a good steady defenseman with good first pass, don't try to go out there and start toe dragging guys. And try and lead the rush and all. Yeah, exactly. Right. For sure. Yeah. Now kind of moving forward into the O. Now the first year you don't make the team, right? So you end up going to play junior A tier 2. I think it was in Whitby, correct? Yeah, it was. So moved away from home, all that kind of like obviously billets, I'm assuming. What was it like kind of moving out of the house and then living with another family? How'd you find that whole experience? That year honestly was pretty tough just because I wanted to be with the team so badly. And they wanted me to feel like a part of the team. So like I went to school with all those guys. Like Boone would pick me up for school every day, and then I would go to lunch with them. I would go to their rink, but then I would get picked up from that rink to go back to Whitby. So you were so close. Yeah. So it was like It was
Yeah.
such a hard thing. And the guys were great whenever they were hanging out, like they would invite me and my roommate out with them and they made us feel welcome. But like at the end of the day, I wasn't on the team and I didn't even play a game with them because they had I think they had like 90.
Oh, wow.
Like one was playing forward, two were sitting out all the time. So like, there was just no chance for me to get in.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, I had good billets my first year. I think honestly, I kind of locked myself away a little bit. My billets were worried about because I like to get on Xbox and just talk with my buddies. I think I was a little homesick. I mean, you're 16, you're moving away from home,
Definitely.
right? And I didn't make the team. I think that was really like, without sounding, I guess, a little stuck up. That was the first team I didn't make, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had made the AAA all the way up and then I just didn't make this team. And I know it's a different level, but that year was actually pretty tough. But I think towards the end of the year, I started to grow up a little bit, I guess you could say. And our team, we didn't make playoffs. So I was actually back home pretty early that year. But it was definitely a growing experience for sure. It was different not being around my mom and brother and sister and all that stuff. So it was tough that year, but I think it all worked out.
I think a lot of times too, like I went through it too. When I moved away, I had a good week or two where I was just, especially during camp, because you had a little bit of time at night where not a lot was going on. I remember just sitting there thinking like, what are my buddies doing right now? Like, what am I missing? What are my parents doing? What's my brother and sister doing? Like, and you get super homesick. I think once you get in the flow of school and everything like that, it's a little bit better, but it's not easy when especially when you got a good home spot. And a lot of times too, like, I moved into a billet house that was better than our house. They had a pool. It was like, but it's just, I would have taken my house 10 times out of 10. I was like, this is not my, just home. Right. And, but it's an adjustment, but I look back on it. I'm like, I grew a ton from doing that and living with different people and moving away. And it helped for every year after that. It was easier and easier and easier to move to wherever. I could move anywhere and it'd be fine.
And even a brand new school at 16 too. Like that at that age is like,
that is
tough.
The toughest. Yeah.
And I didn't have anybody in my class. I didn't say a word for like 2 weeks. And then finally people were like, hey, like, I'm so-and-so. I'm like, oh, nice to meet you. Like, thanks for introducing. Because you go to a new school and like, like sometimes the people don't like the OHL guys.
Sure.
Like, you know what I mean? You like half the people love you, half the people hate you because they think that, I mean, there's a reputation out there for guys like us. Or
definitely.
So some guys have ruined it for all of us. So I'm just like, I'm actually not a bad guy if anyone, but like you never know. So I don't really try and make that for like the first couple of weeks there. I just sat alone in the class.
It's tough though, because you probably came from London where you were one of the jocks, you're one of the popular guys. All your buddies are there, girls, whatever. And then you go to a place where you know nobody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you're just, I don't know if anybody like likes me or they probably just hate me just based off reputation. I don't know. So
when I went to Markham, so that's where I played junior, right around the corner from Whitby, but went to a huge school. Like I went from full French, small school to like this massive school, English uniforms. And I remember the first 3 days I think probably the first 2 to 3 days of lunch, there was a huge, those long tables. I just sat by myself and I had a mullet. And I didn't realize that I'm from Sudbury. So I didn't realize that like Sudbury didn't get the memo yet that mullets aren't cool anymore. So I think I was the only kid in school with a mullet, just sitting there eating lunch. And I went from, the same thing, being kind of a, popular guy, jock, whatever, small school, to like knowing nobody. And that again is like mentally, you're just like, what am I doing? Am I doing the right thing here? Maybe I should just go home. Like this is ridiculous.
And you go right back to like, well, I wonder what my buddies are doing for lunch back home. Like, oh, I wonder if they're at the pizza joint or you know what I mean? And you're just like, wow, like, is this, those thoughts always just creep right back into your head when you're alone like that. Oh, for sure. Yeah. And it kind of plays with you a little bit, but it also like, I'm sure then by Christmas, you probably knew a lot of people at school and a bunch of new friends and a bunch of new circles that you're and that's for me, like life-wise, that is huge. Like being able to do that. And a lot of guys can't. A lot of guys leave. I'm sure you've got buddies that were homesick and left and put good opportunities. I had buddies leave full scholarships on the table because they're like, I just couldn't do it. Yeah, just want to. No, for sure it happens. But I also think on the flip side of that, you make some of your like best friends in junior because of it. Like, there's some guys on the team that we won with, or even before that with Boone and those guys. Like I consider them to be some of my best friends to this day. We don't get to see each other as much as we used to, but I just think because we're all getting thrown into that like melting pot, so to speak, that you just bond so fast. If you're like you have any sort of interests like similar to each other, like you just become best friends right away. You're always hanging out with each other. So I think it was pretty cool how fast I found that I bonded with some of those guys too. So
it's awesome.
Yeah, it is. The camaraderie really cool. Like just builds so like the chemistry in junior is just a lot different than pro, I think, just because of that. You know what I mean? It's our first time moving away together and we all just kind of bond get to go to high school together. It's pretty. I think it's some of the funnest times of your life.
Oh, I
for
totally
sure.
agree. And you don't have like, no one's married yet. No one has kids
Exactly,
yet. Like it's a
yeah.
little different that way too, right?
sure.
Where everyone's kind of on the same page. And yeah, I totally agree. Like it was the best, man. I absolutely loved it.
Oh, me too. Yeah. After I got over the whole homesick thing, it was like some of the best years of my life for sure.
Yeah. No, it's great. And then obviously, going into camp as a 16-year-old and making it as a 17-year-old, were there guys that you remember off that team, off both those years or any of those years, doesn't matter, that you kind of watch and been like, hey, like, and I know Boone's probably a good example of this too, but okay, I'd like to be not like him, but there's certain things that, man, he like the way he approaches the rink, the way he works, his work ethic, the way he is with other guys. Like, were there any guys that you looked up to at those younger ages where you're like, man, this guy's like a good leader. This guy's a fun guy. Like, kind of the town jester that kind of sets stuff up.
Like Boone, obviously for like the work ethic thing. I think I don't think I've ever played with someone that works as hard as him. You can't beat him in like a bag skate, or he'll always finish first in those drills and stuff. Like, doesn't matter what. There were some other guys, some of the older guys who are done playing now though, but like Jeff Brown, he was a guy, he went on to play pro a little bit in Europe, but he kind of took me under his wing early, which I thought was pretty cool. Being 4 or 5 years older than me, actually, I think. He was kind of the whole package. He worked hard and he was a funny guy, but he also knew like when to dial it in and be serious, and also had some leadership qualities about him too. So I kind of looked up to him, and he would always make sure to be like, hey, like, what are you doing tonight? Like, the guys are going here. Like, do you want me to pick you up? Or you know what I mean?
That's
so I
awesome,
think, things like that really made my transition a lot easier when you have a good veteran guy. And it's a lot better when it's like a vet. Like, he was an overager and I wasn't like, I was 16. So I think it's pretty cool when overagers can be that, that like nice to the, you always hear about hazing or like the vets don't like the rookie, whatever. But like when there's always a couple of those guys who kind of like stick up for you, or what I mean, stuff like that. I think it definitely helps a lot for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
Now, do you find being around guys like that treated young guys well and that looked out for you and stuff like that, did that change what you were like when you were the captain of the team and like when you were that older guy? Because I mean, we've all played with some vets that were complete dinks and just, like they just couldn't wait to get the rookies in so they could pick up their bags and get them lunch or whatever it is, right? Then we also all played with some vets that were awesome, just great guys, treated, you got to pick up pucks as a rookie, fine, or whatever. You got your duties, but at the end of the day, just guys like Brownie and guys like Boone that kind of look out for young guys and make sure you guys are, because everyone's been in that spot. And it's crazy in 3-4 years how guys forget what it was like to be 16. And now that they're 20, they're like, polish my shoes. Like, dude, are you kidding me, man? Like 4 years ago, you were the guy here. Why are you making me do this?
I got a theory on that. It's like your third year of junior. That's when the true colors show, because like you're a rookie and then you're a second year guy. You really don't have any rank on the team. Like you're barely, like you're just ahead of the rookies. But it's that third year that guys really like, if they're going to be pricks to the rookies or whatever, that's like the year that it shows. But I mean, I'd like to think, that I wasn't bad to the, like, I like to think that I talked to them and like it sounds bad saying it like that, but it can get a little clicky on the team sometimes. Like I think we had a pretty good group of guys. We just had a little kind of reunion thing this year, and a lot of the guys were there, which is pretty like awesome. A lot of the younger guys and everything. So it was pretty cool. I mean, I guess you'd have to ask some of the younger guys on the team. I'd like to think that I was pretty good with them, but I don't know, maybe.
But I mean, I think seeing it at young ages with guys like Brownie and guys like Boone that did treat people well, and they had their jokes and they had their fun. I'm sure they had their cracks and stuff like that. But I think when you're around guys like that and you see it, you're like, it hopefully changes how some of these young guys get up and get to that older guy stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, for you, like, so the last 2 years of junior, you end up being the captain of the team, correct?
Yeah.
And then obviously your last year going a pretty sick run and make the Memorial Cup and then obviously win it. What was that whole experience like as far as just being on a team that goes that far in the playoffs, number one, is pretty cool. And coming to the rink every day when you're winning and you're kind of getting hot is, I mean, the best.
That's something, that's something you'll never forget. We weren't even supposed to be that good. There were rumors that we were going to trade everybody, and then we just kind of kept winning at the start of the year.
Who were some of your main big dogs on that team? Like, who are your main, like on that Memorial Cup team, who are your main guys? Or was yourself? Obviously, Vandy was there.
Yeah, Vandy was there. Like Michael Dalcole was on the team, and then kind of our like shutdown unit was Cole Castles, Hunter Smith, and then Brad Latour. Mm-hmm. And myself, and then we traded for Dakota Murmis from the Knights. Yep. So, but him, Will Pechnig played with me a lot. Vandy was kind of a little younger at the time, but still, he was such a dynamic. Like we put him on forward sometimes, we put him on D. He could do it all, really. Yeah. And then obviously our goalie, Kenny Appleby. Then we traded for Big Mac, Mike McCarron too.
Oh, yeah,
He
that's
was
right.
He was a big part of that too.
Yeah, right.
And then Matt Mistley came to our team. I would say that was kind of like the older. If I'm forgetting someone, I'm gonna feel bad later. But that was kind of the older like, crew for sure. But yeah, that whole year was just it was on exactly like you said. Once you get hot and you almost go into rinks like expecting to win, and you just don't even know why. But it's just everything's just clicking. Right? Yeah. And we had such a big team. We would just kind of like abuse teams. We played so physical and like so physically and so defensively too that teams could barely get anything on us.
And was DJ your coach then?
Yeah,
Smith.
DJ Smith. Yeah,
he's now in Ottawa.
Yeah.
And what was he like as a coach? I've heard nothing but good things. I met him a couple times, and
he's great. He's the ultimate player's coach. Like he'll joke around with you and say he's just you got to meet him to really understand. He's just like. He's great.
But he loves his jokes. He loves his laughs.
Loves his jokes. And great player coach. Like he's the kind of guy that would be like, listen, like I know you guys are going to go out and have your fun, but we're going to get our work done first. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so if you found out that you were going, like you'd have to pay for it. And it was all serious at the rink. Like when it was time to get on the ice, if we were making bad passes and weren't crisp, then it was on the line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then at the end of the day, he'd be the first one to call us and be like, hey, like, I snapped on you a bit there. Like, sorry, that was a little too far. You know what I mean? Like, he's such a good players coach like that. He'll realize. And then, but yeah, he was great. He's the best coach or my favorite coach that I've played for so far, for sure.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool to see a guy like that get an opportunity, right? Now, I'm sure obviously he's always wanted to be a head coach, and now he gets a chance. And I know Ottawa maybe in the public eye is maybe not the best right now, but I think it's not a bad spot to start because there's not a lot of expectations there. The only way they can go is up, and hopefully he gets a chance to kind of pull that up a little bit and help those guys out for sure.
I think it's the perfect situation. Obviously, first time head coach, and the team, like you said, I guess has been underachieving or young or whatever you want to say about the team.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put them down in any way. I think they're a pretty good squad, but I think it's a perfect fit for him right now. There's a nice young core there that he can kind of get his guys, so to speak, and like grow with that core together. And I think it's a perfect fit for him for sure.
Oh, for sure. Now, for you to put a kind of a cap on your OHL career to be the one to kind of hoist the Memorial Cup, what was that like? I mean, obviously played in the league and you've seen other teams win it, and you're like, man, that'd be. I know. I always talk to OHL guys about. I know the goal of going to the OHL is not to win a championship. Like the goal to go to the OHL is to get drafted to the NHL, like as a player, right? Then when you're on a team, you get a little bit of mojo and things are going well. And you're like, hey man, we could push. Let's try to win the OHL championship and see what happens, right? Obviously, everyone wants to win, but I think the OHL biggest thing there is a stepping stone for guys to try to play in the show,
for sure.
And that there's nothing wrong with that, right? But now all of a sudden you're there and you've already been drafted, so you got drafted to Florida, and probably your last year junior, obviously, and now you kind of get a chance to go on a run. What was it like to hoist the cup at the end of the year?
Yeah, that was a feeling you'll never forget, really. Especially, I don't know, it's kind of cool to be the first one to touch it too. You know what I mean? Just being the captain and everything, but it's hard to even put into words. It's just like all that hard work that you put in your entire life just kind of just comes to fruition right in that moment. You know what I mean? Like it's not, the work's not over by any means, but just, you almost just stop thinking about anything else. And you're just like, wow, like we actually did it kind of thing. And like you said, it is the OHL, like everyone wants to go there to get drafted to the NHL, but then you realize, the better we are, the further we go, the longer the scouts get to watch us. Maybe then it's like, okay, well now we're in the finals. If we win this, then the scouts be like, oh, now he's a winner. You know what I mean? So, and I think that was big too. Obviously beating Erie in the final. I don't think anybody had us beating them with Connor McDavid and all. Sure, they had a great squad too. So, but beating them in 5 and then so after, I don't know, you want to win, like you play to win the OHL championship because really no one knows what's going to happen in the Memorial Cup. I mean, it's a round robin tournament, teams you've never played before. You don't really know what's going to happen. Yeah. So we win that, and then you're like, okay, like off to Quebec City, that's awesome. And then, we ended up winning the first 3 to get the bye to the final, and then it's just like everything's on the line that last game. That was going into the rink. You could just tell everyone, like we were keeping it pretty loose, but it was also like this is it. And especially for me, it was like my last game of junior, right, as an overager and everything. So to this day, Anthony Cirelli is one of my favorite people, just because he won the game for us. So it's something you can't really explain, honestly, lifting that trophy. It's incredible, the feeling that you get just finally just winning. It's something that now I chase. Yeah. Because I had we haven't made the playoffs in my pro career yet kind of thing. So it's just, all I want to do is win again. Yeah. After you taste that, it's like an addiction. You just want to try and win at any cost. So it's been tough not making the playoffs even these last couple of years. So
for sure.
Yeah. Definitely.
And especially in pro now, the goal is to win. right? Like where there's nowhere else to go.
Exactly,
I mean,
yeah.
for you guys, you want to try to get up to the NHL and be a steady, which you had a good chance this year. But now when you're there, it's like we gotta win the cup. Like, that's the next thing is winning the cup, right?
There's no other draft. Yeah, exactly. Like this is the ultimate. This is what we dreamed about when we were kids, is hoisting that Stanley Cup. So, so.
And I mean, the more you can win along the way is awesome. Like if you win in minor hockey, it's amazing. You win in the O, it's unbelievable, or college, whatever, it's unbelievable, right? But now, now you have an opportunity every year, hopefully, to go for one of the biggest prizes, which is unreal, right?
Which I would just love to win that.
Yeah, for sure. Now, looking back on that OHL team that went to the World Cup, how many guys off that team have gotten NHL games?
Honestly, not as many as you'd think.
No.
I think 4 off the top, 5 off, and none of us are really like steady eddies yet.
Right.
I don't, or like Michael Dalcole just signed a one-way 2-year deal, so he's probably the closest. But Big Max had some games.
Yeah,
I obviously finished. Kenny Appleby had some games. Then Dakota Murmis. And I'm
Sorelli?
Sorry. Sorelli.
He'd be a bit of steady. Yeah,
he's an absolute steady.
Yeah. And then but even like Mitch Van de Sample, like we're talking about Vandy, like he's been in the A, and I mean, hopefully things work out for him. But you look at a team that's the won the whole thing, kind of the best team in the CHL.
Yeah.
And obviously you guys had great players and probably loaded up a little bit to get to that final prize. But
for sure,
it is hard, man. Like if people think that you just get drafted to the O and you make the NHL, it's like, man, it's a lot of work.
It doesn't just work that way for everyone. And I think on paper, honestly, our team wasn't the best. There's probably 10 teams that were better on paper than we were.
Yeah.
I think it was just the style that we played and then our chemistry. We were all just best friends on that team. So I just think all that that's why we won in the end. I think honestly, just kind of all that just coming together for sure.
It's pretty special the way when you have a team like that everyone kind of gets along. If you're having a little bit of a get together, everyone's there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's because it's hard to find that, and it's hard to duplicate or replicate that again.
No, for sure.
There's not really a perfect recipe for it. It just happens with the group of guys you have. And
exactly.
Yeah, it's because I mean, anytime you put 20, 25 guys together, you're gonna have conflicts. You're gonna have guys that don't like guys, right?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times when teams are tight like that, you have a guy or two that are good bumpers. They're kind of good middle guys that can bring that weird guy and this loose guy together, and they're okay.
Yeah.
They got a bumper in the middle that can kind of not just accidentally or just the character that they have are able to kind of gel to some of these guys together and keep them loose.
For sure. Yeah, definitely.
So now let's talk a little bit here about kind of getting to Florida and stuff. So get drafted to Florida. Now, what was it like going through your draft year in the OHL compared to so when you were getting, kind of getting ready to get drafted to the OHL, that's one thing. But now in the OHL, getting drafted to the NHL, I mean, obviously that's your ultimate goal to have a team that wants you and kind of get picked. And I mean, I don't think, looking at your career, I think your whole career has kind of been underlined by hard work. You've always been a big guy and stuff like that, but it wasn't like easy as far as, you got sent down to the East Coast League. You spent your time kind of grinding it out and, and I think at the end of the day, for an outsider looking in, I think that builds character on guys. I think it gets guys maybe a little bit more hungry. It gets them a little bit more appreciative when they do get that opportunity to be a steady in the AHL. Like, hey man, I'm here. I'm not going to hopefully get sent back down to the East Coast League, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And then now, hopefully the same thing happens with the NHL. I don't want to get sent back down to the AHL. I want to be steady in the NHL.
For sure.
But kind of before that, getting in that draft year, as you're playing in Oshawa, obviously, what was that year like for you? Were you kind of start of the year, my goal is to get drafted this year, or were you like, I'm just going to play and see what happens and try to be be the best I can be?
Yeah, I think it was more I wanted to get drafted because I actually missed my actual draft year because I didn't play. That was my first year in the OHL, obviously, and I have an early birthday, so that my second year, kind of the junior. But I didn't play that many games, just being a younger defenseman, and again, they had a ton of D. So, that next year it was kind of like, hey, like is hockey going to be like a job for me in the future, or do I? So I kind of just wanted to make sure that I was getting drafted, and that was actually when DJ Smith came in. That was his first year with the new coaching staff and everything. So they just showed a lot of faith in me.
So that was your 18-year-old year then, right? So like your 16-year-old year, you played in Whitby.
Yeah.
And then your actual draft year
was like, 17, 18.
Yeah, 17, 18. That was your first year, but didn't play a lot, limited minutes in and out of the lineup, which is normal. And then, so because a lot of people don't know, but really the NHL could draft you 1, 2, or 3 years, really. Like sometimes they'll pull a 20-year-old, very rare. But so for you kind of missed that, unfortunately, like that prime draft year that most of the guys your age got drafted in.
Yeah.
So then the following year, obviously there's still a chance to get drafted. So for you, it's that mindset of like, okay, let's try to try to get some minutes, try to play and see what happens.
Definitely. And it was kind of, it was time for me to take just like another step to be more of a leader on the team, to play more of those minutes. Obviously I had to earn that with the new coaching staff, but I think they just saw my play and realized like, okay, this guy's pretty steady. Like and then I still didn't really know about the draft. I heard anything from like, oh, you might go 4th round, you could go 7th round. Like who knows what could happen, but it looks like you could get drafted. So, I guess you try not to think about it too much. You don't want to be going into games being like, oh, I have to play well, I'm not going to get drafted, or you know what I mean? So, but yeah, I guess kind of like you said, it's never really been that easy for me. I guess it's always just kind of been, just on the outside looking in just by a little bit, and just have to kind of keep grinding, find another entrance, I guess, find another door that's going to open for me. So, so I guess that season I just worked out pretty well for me. I played a lot of games. And then I guess, Florida took a chance on me in the 6th round. So yeah.
And man, for Florida, like for an organization to have, and this is no knock on you at all, but being able to draft a guy that, man, we see something in him. And for defensemen, I find goalies probably the toughest, because they usually don't get a chance till they're a little bit older, usually. Yeah. Right. And then for D, same thing. Like a lot of the D, it's very seldom you're going to see a lot of D playing at 19, 20. No, they're going to learn the game a little bit, learn the pro game, develop, and then, they're going to get their chances maybe a little bit later. Yeah. But for them to be able to pick up a 6th or 7th rounder, like for in your case, 6th rounder that has already played, a bunch of games right now last year, that's huge. Like for that scouting staff, that's a good find, and obviously you're trending up, not down, which is huge, right? So, that you're kind of peaking at the right time. You're developing at the right time. But going to the 6th round, I mean, regardless of where you go or when you go, getting drafted in the NHL is a massive feather in your cap. Like that's something you can say at the bars in 20 years to anybody. Hey buddy, I got drafted. But I think it's obviously awesome. But what was it like for you going through that? Were you kind of around family? Where were you when the whole thing kind of went down?
My agent actually wanted me to go. I was a little on the fence because he said like I said, it could be 4 to 7. You might not even get drafted. So I didn't really want to be the guy who went to the draft and then didn't get drafted or anything. But I had talked a lot to Nashville and Florida the most. I think I had a couple phone calls with them each, and they both had like 3 picks in the 4th round. So I was like, wow, okay, like there's a pretty good chance that there's 6 picks right there that I might go with one of those. So the 4th round comes and goes. I don't get drafted. I'm like, oh, that sucks. Like I might be. And then the 5th round comes and goes, and I'm like, okay, like this is it. I'm not getting drafted. And then I was the next pick. So I was the first pick in the 6th round or whatever. So it was I was sitting there. My mom was kind of looking at me. She could tell I was just a wreck. Like I was nervous. I was like, it sucks if I don't go. But
were you at the draft then?
Yeah, I was.
You did?
Yeah,
okay.
In New Jersey. Yeah, okay. I did go. So so it was pretty cool. Obviously, walking down those steps, shaking the hand, getting the jersey put on, meeting everybody at the table and stuff. So I actually owe a lot of that to Jason Bukla. He's one of the head or director of scouting, I believe, with the Panthers. He's actually from London too, which is pretty cool. So I see him around. We've grabbed some coffee in the past and bumped into each other, and so I owe a lot of that to him actually. That I got drafted. So it's
cool.
Awesome. The London connection helped out.
Well, and I think a lot of times too, it's having, whether it's a scout, GM, whoever, that sees something in somebody, right? And maybe knows a little bit more of the behind the scenes story a little bit too, which is huge, right? Yeah. Talking to coaches or teammates or whoever. And because a lot of times when you're drafting players, we all know who the high end guys are. That's pretty easy. But when you're looking at guys that maybe have that character, maybe a bit of a later bloomer or want to get better, just need to be around the right people or need to be directed the right way. That is where I think you're going to find those kind of not diamonds in the rough, but those players that maybe are a little bit later picks that could translate into real good players. And you see it all the time. Kids that don't get drafted or they get drafted late that all of a sudden are now playing and they're studies in the NHL and they're contributing. And I think for scouts, it's knowing that. And for you as a guy like Jason looking at you and obviously following you for probably quite a while without you even knowing it. And him say, man, when this kid's eligible, like when, kind of seeing how you're going to play and I want to take a flyer on this kid for sure and see what happens,
Actually, and their 7th round pick behind me, Mackenzie Weegar, he's been full time in the NHL too. So it's kind of cool. Like the late bloomers, so to speak, have done pretty well in that draft kind of thing. So for the Panthers, but kind of cool.
It's for sure. Now we talked about it quickly, but your first year, so now you kind of done with Oshawa, get into your pro camps and kind of get into that whole swing of things. The first year you kind of split with the East Coast and the AHL, correct?
Yeah.
Started in the AHL to start the year?
I was there. They gave me a housing letter, but then I ended up getting sent down like 2 weeks later. So I didn't even play any games to start the season with them, which was tough.
Yeah.
And so I kind of, that it was similar to my first year in junior where I didn't make the team and got sent down. But I told myself this time I'm going to go down with a lot better of an attitude and not do what I did when I was 16 and kind of mope and sulk. So, obviously the East Coast, it gets a bad rap. It wasn't.
It's a good league though, man.
It is. There's some good players down
awesome,
there.
Yeah.
That's what people don't realize. And I was lucky enough. I went down. It was in Manchester, and we had an unbelievable apartments where they put us up.
Yeah.
And it was the Monarchs, and they had actually just won the Calder Cup the year before. So we had all their using their facilities and stuff. They had a better facility in the East Coast League than the Portland Pirates did, which was the AHL team. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was pretty. It wasn't like I was in some crappy rink with a dumbbell lying around.
Right,
you know what I mean? It was real facilities. The gym was great. All that. So and we got taken care of really well. So yeah, and then just kind of grinded out that season a little bit. I was up and down a lot. I think I really only played 10-ish games in the A, but I felt like I was up in the A a lot, just getting scratched, and then they'd send me back down. And then it was only an hour and a half away, so they kind of brought me up and down.
So you drive back and forth.
Yeah, exactly. So,
so basically they just messed with your mind for an entire year.
And my first AHL game was a 4-4. So I played
because you were playing. Okay, go.
I was with the East Coast League team. We played 3 games in 3 different, obviously in 3 different states. I think we did Toledo, Fort Wayne, or Toledo was the last game. But I'll never forget this because our Christmas break was coming up that day. So my mom was at the game in Toledo because that's 3 hours away from here. Right. So she could take me back after and we would have our Christmas break. But of course I get called up after that game.
No way.
So I had to fly out of Toledo at 6 o'clock in the morning after I just played my 3rd game in a row to meet the team. Or it's flying to, I think I flew into LaGuardia. There was a driver there that drove me to Bridgeport from there. Jeez. And I just had 20 minutes to collect myself, basically eat food. And then I had to go to the rink and play a 5 o'clock game against the Bridgeport Tiger.
No way.
Yeah. And so 4 games in 4 nights, which is unheard of for anyone listening.
Yeah, you're not allowed to do that. That's actually illegal.
It's actually illegal. Yeah. So
how'd that game go for you? How'd you play? Do you remember it at all? Or
honestly thought I played pretty well.
Yeah, I felt okay.
Yeah, the jittery nerves just kind of take over, I guess, at that point.
Yeah.
And I wasn't playing crazy minutes. I was kind of playing 60 minutes. I didn't play too much penalty kill. Had a pretty regular shift 5-on-5, but we got into some penalty trouble and they actually weren't putting me out. So I didn't have too much ice, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah.
So it wasn't bad.
And for a lot of people that don't know, the East Coast League doesn't pay obviously great. We all know that, but, you do get set up, your housing's usually paid for. And most of the times it's not too bad. Sometimes food a little bit, restaurant deals, whatever. You got stuff in the community a little bit. So it's not terrible. And some of the cities are pretty cool. Some of the cities are pretty fun and they can be a good spot. Obviously, if you're playing pro, you don't want to be stuck there too long, but there's a lot of players that end up going down there to whatever it is, whether it's conditioning, whether it's they're not playing well enough or wake up call or whatever that is.
Definitely.
But getting a chance to play down there, did that give you a little bit more of an appreciation for that next jump to the AHL and being, kind of in your mind, be I need to be a steady in the AHL.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was obviously my mindset. After that season, I was I don't want to do that again. I don't want to be going up and down like crazy. I want to be steady Eddie in the AHL. So yeah, going into that second year, that was pretty nerve-wracking. And then the team had now moved to Springfield in the AHL, which is where it still is now. And yeah, I actually won't forget the first go through camp, do all that stuff. And I get scratched the first game and I was oh man.
This is the next year.
This is the next year. Yeah. I'm here we go again. But I only got scratched that one game and then I played the next game and then they didn't take me out of the lineup after that. So it was I obviously I kind of earned but I was we get a housing letter obviously kind of thing to let you know basically.
That's kind of the first team. Milestone after camp, right?
Exactly.
Hey, I can stay.
Got a housing letter finally.
Yeah.
But they kind of made me sweat it out a bit. A lot of other guys, a lot of other rookies were getting housing letters and I was there's no way. Am I going back down again?
No way.
I worked so hard that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They ended up giving me, and then I was kind of actually kind of a steady, playing good minutes too. They kind of liked me being more of the shutdown guy. I was kind of playing against top lines early. So yeah, I think my development down there went pretty well, honestly, for the most part. Yeah.
Good for you. Sure. And then last year, obviously you start off in the AHL and kind of think I'm sure had a good camp with Florida and then probably thought, okay, well, I'll put another year in here and hopefully get some call-ups and stuff like that. Yeah. And were there, because up to that point, there hadn't really been any call-ups to the NHL, right?
Yeah, no. Last year was actually kind of a bummer to start because I I broke my ulna blocking a Ryan Ellis one-timer in the first exhibition game against Nashville. So, and in my mind, that like last season was kind of like, okay, like I'll probably like I can get called up this year if I'm playing well. Like my exit meetings had all been positive. So,
and he's got a cannon,
Cannon, and just like 5-on-3, we just lost the draw clean, D-to-D one time. I go down and block it, and it just slips right in between my glove and my like where my elbow pad ends, and just like that perfect spot, and just broke it. So I ended up missing 20 something games. Obviously, get sent down to spring. Like I'm not gonna start in the NHL after that. But I think I only played 20 something games in Springfield, and then I got called right, which I was kind of shocked. I thought I was playing well, but I didn't really know what was going on with the team or anything. And from what I'd heard, no one got hurt yet or anything. But I think it's just because they were trying to move some guys or whatever. But so I mean, that's another conversation you won't. I don't think players forget is that first call up. You know, your coach brings you in and basically tells you that you're playing well and that you're going up with the big club. So I think that was pretty cool. Yeah, that was pretty awesome. Yeah.
What were the biggest when you first got up and kind of, because you've been there before, you've been to camp, you get the setup, you know where you're going, you kind of know the lay of the land a little bit up there, right? But now going there during the season, right? It's a little bit different.
Yeah.
What were some of the biggest things that kind of shocked you that you were like, oh man, this is the step, this is that big step between the AHL and the NHL? Was there anything that kind of stood out, whether it was the speed of the game, whether it was the private jet, whether it was the right?
I think the first thing is just like the breakfast and lunch, kind of like we were talking about earlier. Some AHL teams will do it, but a lot of them don't. So you just go there and there's just a chef in there cooking food. He's got a big spread out. You can take whatever you want, or he'll do like an omelet, eggs on all that stuff. And then you do your little warm up, go on for morning skate, and then you come back in and he's just got a whole new spread for lunch and stuff like that. So I think that was pretty cool. It sounds so small, but all of a sudden you're like, wow, like this is how it is up here, right? Like they just get pampered or whatever. And then
even on the road though, right? Like you guys stay at a hotel, you go down for breakfast. There's like every single breakfast we've ever had as a child laid out from muffins to bagels to like cereal to eggs. Like it's unbelievable. Yeah.
And then, right after that game, I think, or maybe the following, we were going to Nashville to play a back-to-back. So I got right on the private jet. I mean, you just drive like on the tarmac and you just go park at the back and then you just like walk up to the plane. There are those big stairs and like, that's pretty cool. Like everyone thinks like, oh, you gotta like, it's like a normal airport, like clear custom or whatever, like going through security. It's like, no, you just drive your car, get out and get right up on the plane.
It's crazy.
And then there's just food laid out for you when you walk in, like anything, like they usually have little appetizers and then there's just a full menu at your seat and you just get to pick whatever you want basically. And then they come around with like desserts if you want. And then before we land, they come around with mints and gum and just like, it's just crazy. Like all the, like that's what I thought that was. I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. Get all this. That's like the next level.
I always ask guys, cause it's a lot of the same stuff, like no matter what team it is. Right. And there's like, it's just like, it's almost surreal, right? You feel like you're just not even in your own body. Like, really, this is like really happening to me?
I can just take that.
Shoving stuff in your pockets, just fill it up.
As if you're never going to eat again. Yeah, exactly.
And then what were the games like? So getting in that first NHL game and kind of getting, even like, let's say your first 10 games, so kind of getting a bit of a rhythm, feeling like you got your own routine now. You're not bumping into to other guys. You feel like everything's kind of settled in. What were some of the biggest things that you noticed from minor pro, the East Coast League to the AHL to the NHL? Were there some significant differences that you found as you kind of moved up levels and, playing now kind of a little bit more steady at the NHL level?
I just think obviously, like, I guess the skill level and pace just kind of takes another step at every level. The AHL is a great league, but obviously there's guys with like unbelievable skill up at the next level and things like that. And just how like the systems, everything just seems to kind of come together so much more smoothly, I guess you could say. But I think it was a pretty good segue, if you will, into the NHL for me. I was playing against more of the third, fourth line for most of that time I was up. So you kind of play against some of those bigger, heavier guys who are going to hit, which works well with my game plan versus having to go out and play against Sidney Crosby or Mitch Marner in my first shift. You know what I mean? So like, it was a nice little, although I did get more of an opportunity to play against more like the first, second lines towards the end of the season. I just think that's the next level is just the skill set that some of these guys have. You just don't really see that at other. And you'd think you'd seen it all, obviously playing hockey for this long, but you don't really appreciate it until you're actually like on the ice with it. And you're like, wow, like that was these guys, just the way they move the puck, the way they see the ice, just things like that. It's just different. It's just way better.
It's high level. Right? And even practicing day to day with some of the guys on your team that are crazy skilled that you probably watched on TV and saw at camp a bit. And then you're like, man, I didn't realize how good this guy is, or what kind of a skill set he has. Like just being able to watch them, you know, like day to day, just like, man, it's crazy.
It's almost like Sasha Barkov on my, like, obviously I think he's the most underrated player in the league. I don't think people realize how good and I always knew that he was good, but he is like elite.
Yeah.
His skill set is just insane. He's big, he's fast, he can score, he can pass, he can do it all. Like and just the way he sees the ice, some of the passes that he makes and the plays, and even just in practice, you just kind of sit there like, holy, like, he just put that right through my legs. Like, I'm mad, but like, I also got to like tip my cap here. Like, how do you do that? Like, just things like that. Those things just happened to me a couple times, just being up there, just sitting there watching, like, wow, like this is the real deal.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Especially, and obviously on your own team, you got some crazy skilled guys, but also too, when you're watching other teams, right? You're sitting on the bench watching some of these guys, like, oh man, like how fast they are and how smooth they move. And
like Nathan McKinnon was one of those guys. I just thought like he was just next level. When we were playing against Colorado, I was like, this guy, he's so fast and so skilled. I was like, this guy's fantastic player.
Did you
see it on TV, but like when you're actually up there, I think, that was a couple games in for me actually. So I felt pretty comfortable at that point, but I was like, holy. Like,
no, he's legit, man.
He's
like,
so,
and he's just so explosive. Like, turns in a second and he's gone. Did you match up with him at all? Like even by accident a couple shifts? Like, did you ever have to play him at all or not too bad?
Yeah, I think I did actually. We got caught out there and they had a line change and I just saw him picking up speed. Kind of, I was like, oh man, here we go. I don't think he came down my side or what. Nothing bad happened, but I just like that thought comes in your head a little more.
Yeah.
Cause then you're thinking like, oh, the coaches, like they probably want me off the ice. Cause like the top line's out, like I got to change and you're like, oh, I'm caught. Like, what do I do? It's kind of funny. Sometimes you're like, oh, like it's just hockey, like play, like don't freak out. But when it's your first couple of games, you kind of think like, oh, I got to get off. Like I
definitely. You're sprinting to the bench. Just coming down on a breakaway.
Exactly.
I got to get off. But yeah, I mean, seeing guys like that is kind of fun, right? Because you know these guys, like as far as just watching them on TV and stuff like that. But when you get a chance to actually see them perform and know what they can do, you get such another appreciation for how good they are.
Yeah.
Did you find the NHL game a little bit easier to play than the AHL or the East Coast style? Meaning, like, one thing I found when I went from like college to pro and I went to the East Coast, I went to West Coast League, but the East Coast League was my first couple games right out of college. And I found the game a little bit easier just because the guys were older, a little bit more structured. Yeah. And then any guys I've talked to, they say that it actually gets a little bit easier at the next level and the next level, just because guys are smart. Guys are usually in the right position. If you get a puck and you know, the play on this play is to go to the wall, the guy's going to be there.
For sure.
Right?
Like, that's actually kind of something that I feel like it's been hard to explain to people because they're like, oh, like, what's the difference? I'm like, well, it's way harder, but it's also like easier. It's kind of like, So, but definitely like, I thought so too.
So you sound like an idiot.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's like, well, what do you mean? It's like, what the skill set and speed is a lot faster. So it's harder, but exactly what you said, guys are just always in the right spot. Yeah. You just kind of like the systems are so airtight that everyone just knows where they need to be, what they're going to do. And then even something probably like just the skill set, like, you go and give a guy, if you give him a bad pass, he still can just take it. And
totally.
You're just like, oh, geez, I'm glad he took that. That was a horrible pass. Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
just like
for
things like that. Yeah, it just, the skill set up there almost just makes your job easier and it makes it easier on you for sure. Like that transit. I actually thought that transition definitely just because guys just know their roles and no one's trying to do more than that. You know what I mean? So I think for sure. Yeah. It's like that.
Yeah, no, it's cool because you're right. People that have never played are like, what? Like the NHL's so fast and it's so, these guys are so good, but it actually is a little bit easier to play the systems part of it. It's just, man, if you make a mistake, that you're going to get gobbled up. That guy will beat you for sure. Definitely. Make a sick pass through your legs, like you said, so you got to be, skill set wise. I think you got to continue to get better and better and better.
For sure.
What are a couple of things now? Kind of having a chance to play pro for a couple of years. What are some of the areas of your game that you've kind of looked at and said, okay, I need to make sure I get better at this and this. Like if I want to be able to play at the NHL level and be a consistent player at the NHL level, I got to tighten up these couple things, or I got to get better at this. Are there any kind of areas of focus that you kind of hammer on in the summer, in the off season, or even during the season?
Like usually like foot speed's always kind of just being a bigger guy, just kind of always felt out a step. But I think these last couple of years, I've just tightened it up, whether working with you or with Florida's guy, Paul Vincent. He knows his stuff too when it comes to skating and all. He just kind of working on drills like that. And then I just kind of like to work on more like of the skill stuff that we do, like, the stuff down low, whether it's going in and out of the trap and shooting or just things like that. Cause that was actually one of the things I was most surprised about when I first turned pro is like they want passes, they want plays made. Whereas in junior, I almost felt like I was encouraged to like, you got nothing, like flip it off the glass or flip it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like, no, because then you're just giving them possession. Like we need to make those little soft plays to the centerman, hit the winger, or like jump in the rut. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Whereas
for sure.
being a bigger defensive defenseman, I'd never really been expected to do that. Like if it was wide open, I would jump in the rush, but didn't expect a pass. But now it's like, no, like you're a part of the play. Like get up there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was in the AHL. Jordy Kinnear, our coach, was like, "You're a hockey player. Like so, when you get to that blue line, like if you have the puck, don't just dump it in because you think you're like take it in, try and make a play, cycle it down low. Like someone's going to cover for you, kind of thing." So that was definitely kind of something I've just been trying to hammer on a little more. It's just being able to play down low or just make little passes, just hand stuff, things like that, just to feel more comfortable offensively, I guess, is really what I'm trying to say, is just kind of just make sure I have more of a two-way game than just strictly defensive defenseman and then just flip it out when I don't have anything, kind of thing.
And I think it's such a good thing for young coaches to hear, and even young players, that because old school was bang it off the glass and out, rim it, fire it around, get it out of the zone, right? Where now, like you see how the D play now, and whether you're big D or small D, you got to be able to make a play.
Yeah,
you got to be able to make a saucer pass to the middle guy, to to your bumper to get it out, or and so I think it's really important for D at any level to work on those little skill things and be able to we're not talking toe drags and little chips over sticks. We're talking like good passes or little plays or controlling a puck or, but I think, and it's nice, it's refreshing to hear pro coaches telling players like yourself, who's maybe more of a defensive defenseman, like be a player. If you get a puck, don't just throw it away. Don't lose possession of it, right? Make a play with it. And I think that is the new age game. And that's the fun part of when we watch games now, like you got 5 guys that can go.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think having a guy or having defensemen or even forwards that are like good lockdown defensive players, I think is huge. Yeah. And that's never going to go away. But adding a little bit of offense to that or a little bit of skill to that, I think is huge. I mean, that's, kind of expands your box or expands your skill set a little bit to be able to play in different situations and stuff like that.
Definitely. For sure.
Yeah. Now, if you look back, last couple of things, if you look back kind of at yourself when you're a young guy, so let's say, you're kind of going through Pee Wee Bantam, you're 10, 11, 12, 13, whatever it is. Yeah. Are there any things that you would tell yourself now then? So like knowing what you know now, you're obviously very smart, you're very mature. No, looking back at yourself and being like, buddy, listen, man, like you may have a chance to play pro one day. Hammer this and this, whether could be anything, could be stay away from girls, could be quit smoking. No, I'm kidding. No, but it could be whatever it is, right? But if you had advice for like a younger guy, like a younger you that may have, has potential, maybe to play at one point, maybe play in the O or whatever it is there anything that you'd say, man, as a young kid, I would have done more of this?
Yeah, probably. Like I was talking about the foot speed stuff for sure. I think I would have hammered that home a lot sooner, just so I could be more mobile on the back end. And then I guess more just on the mental side of it, just like don't take a failure as negative. Try and like if you don't make the team, then just use that as energy and fuel to prove someone wrong or to make it the next year. Like don't ask why is this happening to me. Ask why is this happening for me, or like how can I turn this into a positive if I try? Because I think that was my biggest thing. Like I said, that first year when I didn't make it, I was just sulking and I had a bad attitude with stuff like that. So it's just your attitude is everything. You know what I mean? So if you can just kind of get that mental mindset to just kind of push on and just to keep working at things, I think that can take guys so much further than they know, because it's easy to just be like, oh, I didn't make it. And like, I mean, it's not easy to let go of that dream, but I think some guys get weighed down by the failures and the negativity of it because, oh, this guy made it over me, or this guy always makes it. You know what I mean? So I think just more on the mental side of it, just to be a little more resilient and just and not that I wasn't, but just that even that next level, just to not get so beat down by one person saying no, kind of thing.
No, I think the I want to touch on the quick feet thing real quick, but I want to get back to the mental stuff in a sec. Because a lot of times, like you've heard this your whole career, I've heard it many, many times, and I get frustrated with it, but he's got to get faster feet. His feet are slow. You got to get quicker feet. Okay, well, how do you do that, right? And then, you get a skipping rope and you get a speed ladder. Okay, well, back in the 70s that worked, but nowadays it's a little bit different. So, for you, when you're talking about quick feet and working on quick feet with, whether it's me or Paul Vincent or your coaches, whoever it is, right? Or even on your own, what are a couple things that you do for like to kind of help your feet get a little bit quicker or help yourself get a little bit more agile with your feet? Because you're a bigger guy and you play heavy, you play strong. So what are some things that you would do to kind of help out with that?
I think some of it can start in the gym for sure. I mean, you don't really have to. Like the ladder's a good tool,
For sure,
but
100%.
But even
yeah.
just working on just explosive power with your trainer, like from the ground up kind of thing, getting into those lower positions and being able to explode through it. I think that just helps with the physical and hitting aspect too.
Yeah.
But then on the ice, I guess the foot speed thing, it's more, I've tried to make with you and Paul Vince, my stride just more efficient, almost taking out steps. So like they're big, like Paul Vincent's big on just less crossovers. So you just kind of do that little drop back step and go and things like that. I just try and work on stuff like that and just trying to stay, the more comfortable you can feel going backwards and feel on your edges, I think is really just how you get faster feet. Because So if you can just put yourself in these awkward, it's going to feel so like I couldn't do it at the start, trying to get rid of that crossover, going back for pucks and all that stuff. So it took a while to get used to, but I think just doing that and just becoming more efficient, I guess, it's probably a better term than faster feet, just having more efficient strides all over the ice. It makes it easier on you too, because I'm not moving my feet as fast. I'm not wasting energy anymore, because if every stride can just be utilized perfectly, I guess, what we try for. But then I just feel like then you look a lot smoother, which makes you look a lot faster and all that stuff too. So, and then, I think those are just kind of the two big things.
No, it's great, man. Sure. And I think one of the big things too, I'm sure Paul hammers this with you, I do a ton, is technically, like making sure that players understand what the technique is, like where you should be on your feet, make sure you're on the ball of your feet, make sure that your knees are bent, like you said, you're loaded. But working on that technique piece, feeling uncomfortable, I think is huge.
Yeah.
And then beginning to start feeling more comfortable as you're going through these kind of reps and things like that. I also think when we talk about speed and stuff for young guys that are out there and girls that are out there that are playing, it's how fast you can turn over. So how fast you can stride out, bring it back, and then stride again. That's going to be, that's going to determine your speed, just like a sprinter. And I think for players to work on that, and that can be done off the ice. That can be done with a little bit of weight training or some different things are going to help kind of with that explosiveness and that leg muscle and things like that. But I think the technique part is huge. And I think to your point, like getting uncomfortable doing stuff, get outside your comfort zone a little bit. And then the more comfortable you are in your skates, the better skater you're going to be. Like that's just how it's, how it is. Right.
Yeah.
But on the mental side of it, I think you're 100% like that to me is one of the biggest things is how players kind of hit adversity. Some of them crumble, some of them can't deal with it. And I mean, you see it all the time when guys get sent down from the NHL to the AHL, you got two ways of guys are, right? Guys are either sulking, pissed off, they got screwed, or they're there to work their ass off and try to get back up to the NHL.
For sure.
And usually the guys that work hard, work their butt off, are usually get a good chance to go back up.
Yeah.
But learning that at a young age, I think is huge. And I put a lot of that onus on the parents. Yeah. I think for parents, kids, you've heard this your whole career, kids get cut and politics, that guy's dad golfs. No, you're not good enough. You were in a tops. Like I always say, like if you're not a top 6 player on that team. So for you, for instance, going through minor hockey, you're probably one of the top 6 players, D4, doesn't matter. But, but if you're not in that top 6, it's definitely going to be somewhat political, somewhat you didn't like the way your socks looked, whatever. Right. But you got to be one of those top guys or girls on that team in order to make that team every year.
For sure.
The other ones, the other bottom 6 are not bad players, but could be that I'm a good buddy with that dad. So I picked that kid because I like the dad and he's a good guy and, whatever. Right. So I think, for all the players out there, it's, man, try to be the best that you can be and try to work as hard as you can. But if you do get cut, take it on head first and, tackle it right away. Okay. What do I need to do to get better? What do I need to do to make that team again? So this doesn't happen to me again.
Sure. And no one wants to be around that. It's toxic if someone's going in there with sulking because they got cut or on the new team or like down in the AHL when that guy comes down, everyone's just like, oh, here we go. Like pity party. No one wants to be around that guy. It's toxic for the team. It brings everybody else down. So I think for like that mental side of it, if you can just take it as, okay, well, like, what do I got to work on? Well, let's work on it first thing tomorrow and just go into the rink with a smile on your face still. Just try and be a good teammate to the guys you're down there with now. For sure.
No, totally. And I mean, don't get me wrong. You're still going to be pissed off. You're still rattled and that's okay. But like you said, almost like adding a little bit of fuel to the fire a little bit and keep it inside and let it push you a bit. Right. Well, listen, buddy, I'm super pumped. Thanks a lot for coming in. This is awesome. Yeah. And super excited for you. I know you got pushed back a little bit because the tornadoes down in Florida, but you'll be heading out there next week, or I guess on the weekend, which
tomorrow actually. Yeah.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Excited for that, I'm sure.
Yeah. It should be fun.
Awesome. Well, best of luck this year. We're pumped to watch you play for sure. All right, buddy.